Evening, everyone. My name is David Morgan, Environmental Planner and Conservation Agent for the town of Arlington. September 4th, 2025, public meeting of the Conservation Commission will be conducted in a remote format consistent with an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which further extends certain COVID-19 measures regarding remote participation in public meetings until June 30th, 2027. This meeting is being recorded and the recording may be made publicly available. All meeting materials can be found at the link that I am putting in the chat now. Please note that the chat feature may be used for questions and comments that contribute to the Commission's procedures, and if it's used otherwise, it may be disabled at the chair's discretion. Public comment period will follow each hearing. We have 2 hearings tonight. The Commission encourages attendees to ask questions and offer comments during that comment period. Chuck Taroni is our Commission Chair. He'll facilitate tonight's meeting. Each vote we take is conducted with a roll call vote, and we start with reviewing the agenda and taking attendance. So, to you, Chuck.
Sure. Thanks, David. September 4th, 2025. Time is 7:04. The agenda is going to be minutes review, correspondence received, 37 Birch Drive certificate of compliance request. Is that something that can be muted?
Including Robert S. Franklin and Whitney J. Sullivan for the rate.
Thank you. Mystic Street Bridge amendment request. Water Bodies Working Group updates from our liaisons, Water Bodies, CPA, Tree Committee, and Recreation. And then we'll get into our hearings. Our hearings are a request for an amendment to the notice of intent for Spy Pond, and a request for an amendment to the notice of intent for Lot 0 Mystic Street Bridge. So with that, I'll take attendance. Mike Gildersgame.
Present.
Nathaniel Stevens.
Present.
Susan Chapnick.
Here.
David White.
Also here.
David Kaplan. I saw David, didn't I? All right, I don't see him now. David Kaplan. Moving on, Chuck Taroni is here. Associate members Sarah Alfaro Franco mentioned that she's going to be off tonight, and I just saw I continue with my associate members. And Eileen Coleman, are you here?
I'm here.
All right. And David Kaplan, can you say that you're also here and you're a member of the commission? Oop, did we lose him again?
I'm afraid we did, yeah.
Okay, so.
Oh, Chuck, I don't think you called me. I'm here too, Brian.
Brian McBride. Thanks, Brian,
Sure.
for that.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to move on. First is our review of the minutes of July 24th, 2025.
I have not received any comments on these to date. Jackie, did you receive any?
No, I think Nathaniel said that he had made a few changes to the doc directly.
Okay.
Yes, I didn't review. Yes, I did before Jackie sent them out.
Okay.
It was about a month ago, so don't ask me what they were.
Fair enough. They should be reflected in this version anyway, because this was taken from Drive, where we posted all the materials for the commission. So just a quick roll through them. We talked about the Sims Woods Forest Management Plan, 66 Dudley, enforcement, Milton Street COC, the regular updates from our liaisons, and we had the closing of the Drake Village notice of intent. There was a quick note at the end there about our comments on the Mass Ready Act. That was it. Relatively short, adjourned 8:40.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mike Gilderscame has a second.
I'll second.
David White. Nathaniel Stevens.
You're on mute.
Susan Nathaniel, thumbs up.
Yes.
Susan Chapnack.
Yes.
David Kaplan.
Yes.
Brian McBride.
Yes.
Mike Gilderscame.
Yes.
David White.
Yes.
And Chuck Taroni says yes. All right, moving right along, we have an item about correspondence. I'll just say if correspondence is available on our website. If you're having trouble finding a specific item, reach out to David Morgan at the office, and he'll be happy to help you. Discussion items: 37 Birch Drive Certificate of Compliance request. Who's presenting this? I'm going to turn to David to answer that question.
And I'm going to turn to Jackie.
Jackie, all right.
I thought that this one
I
was
thought we
off
took that
the
off.
agenda.
Yeah, are you looking at the correct agenda, Chuck? Because there was a revised agenda after we met.
I'm looking at the
this is-
agenda. All right, so it's fine to say this was removed,
Yes, we're
but I am
removing
looking
it.
at the agenda that I found by going to the Town of Arlington's website, clicking on the calendar, and clicking on the agenda that was presented in that spot. So I am not looking at our Google Drive. So this is what the public would have downloaded.
Well, that's
Okay.
unfortunate. We made a mistake.
I don't know if I had officially removed it because I think I had sent comments to David that it depends on if we get this stuff in time, but I don't remember
Yeah,
where the
it's
draft was at. So we didn't get a chance to discuss it since David came back. So I apologize.
absolutely no issues. This is just not even worth this amount of time to discuss. Okay, we're going to move on to Elizabeth Island MOU. Who owns that?
I'll also turn to Jackie for that one.
All right, Jackie.
Okay. So Mass Audubon has been working with us to draft a memorandum of understanding for Elizabeth Island, and we had exchanged back and forth some edits and changes to their initial draft. We had town council review it. There's been a few back and forths, but I can share the most recent draft, which, oh, Nathaniel, did you want to say anything?
Thanks. Yeah, I was gonna say, do you have the most recent draft that David and I got on Monday? Because I took a look at it and spoke with town council, and it was heavily revised, I think, since then, since the draft that was posted on the Google Drive. So sorry about that. I kind of torpedoed the process a little bit, but
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, so this
Okay.
the most recent draft was, I don't think you reviewed it because we received it like last night. I don't know if
okay.
Nicole is on the meeting from Audubon. I think she had been planning to attend. Is she on here? I guess not.
No.
Is not, but Nathaniel, to your question, we did forward the version that the legal department for the town reviewed to Mass Audubon. And
Oh, yes.
draft Jackie's talking about is Mass Audubon's response to the town's comments. So
right.
it's been put through the
Sorry
ring.
can I interrupt for 1 second? Sorry. I just don't have the history. I know this is a long time ago that the town purchased Elizabeth Island when there's a conservation restriction. I wonder if someone could give me a 3-sentence recap of what we're trying to accomplish here and why.
Yeah, so I'll read from paraphrasing the MOU. So it says the purpose of this agreement is to facilitate the cooperation of and framework by which the two parties agree in managing, monitoring, and enforcing the conservation restriction. So it involves sort of cooperation between Conservation Commission and Mass Audubon to ensure compliance with the conservation restriction. So Audubon is agreeing to monitor and enforce the conservation restriction in a manner that does not prohibit, hinder, or prevent the Conservation Commission's exercise of authority, submit an annual monitoring report. In the event of a violation, both parties would notify each other in writing, abiding by the terms of the conservation restriction. Conservation Commission would monitor and enforce to the extent permitted by law, and provide timely feedback to Mass Audubon about any information or notices to the Conservation Commission, especially with proceeding with violations to the conservation restriction.
And was it Land Trust that owns the island, or
It does,
Audubon
yeah.
is a co-owner or something, or an executor?
No, the land trust purchased the
CR.
island from the owner and then placed a CR conservation restriction on it, and the Conservation Commission and the Mass Audubon are holders of the conservation restriction, so that they have the right to enforce it. Co-holders, thank you. Yep.
I'm just not understanding, like, why would a separate entity from the Conservation Commission need to have a role in enforcing something that the Conservation Commission might normally do? There's some trick there that I'm not quite understanding.
Well, that's I think what you're saying normally do. We haven't been doing it, and Mass Audubon's been stepping up to do it. The past couple of years. So yeah, so one would think we would be normally doing this, but fortunately, Mass Audubon has been there to be doing the monitoring for us.
So,
sort of a proxy.
Brian, do you know why Mass Audubon is even involved?
No.
So didn't they donate some of the money for this, or did they donate some of the time to write the conservation restriction? What?
I'm trying to remember. I was on the Land Trust Board at the time. I should remember. I know the Conservation Commission. We use some of our land funds, land acquisition funds, and then I think Mass Audubon may have contributed a small amount as well. But I think part of their contribution was to agree to do the monitoring. But I could be totally making that up.
If we can
clarify for Brian, this is something the Mass Audubon is doing statewide. It's not just Elizabeth Island that's in question here. They're doing a review of their portfolio of all their holdings and making sure that they have MOUs for each.
Okay. That's
Sure.
So
I see Mike Gildersgame has his hand up.
Yes, I just, a similar question to Brian's. I understand from what was just said that Audubon has the authority to enforce some of those rules that are in the conservation restriction. And I'm wondering under what authority they, as a private entity, have authority to enforce rules.
Under the terms of the conservation restriction itself, it's explicit about that. And then the statute that provides for conservation restrictions explicitly gives the right of the person who is granted the conservation restriction to rights of enforcement.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah, that's unusual.
No, it's actually not. It's not unusual.
Oh, is it really?
Standard practice. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the model conservation restriction that the state puts out has that provision in it for enforcement, because that's the whole idea. Is a property owner grants a conservation restriction, says essentially, I'm giving up my development rights. I'm agreeing to these restrictions. And for it to be a conservation restriction and be in perpetuity, it has to be held by a qualified organization that will monitor it and enforce, has the legal authority to enforce the terms of the conservation restriction, so they don't build a house on Elizabeth Island or some other structure.
And we apparently felt at the time we were didn't have the capacity or what have you to enforce such a restriction ourselves and benefited from the Audubon stepping in.
And I think that's the key component we're missing here tonight. Why was the Audubon part of this? I think they had a bigger role than we can remember tonight. Susan Chapnick.
Not to belabor this, but there's a similar CR on Sims and Arlington 360 where we're working with the land trust to monitor the conservation restriction. So they're almost always, as Nathaniel said, there's always another party, almost always. That conservation restrictions are different than just jurisdictional areas that we, as a conservation commission, evaluate.
Well, yeah, I don't know if there's almost always another party. I think there's plenty
It's
of
always
one
like a backup,
party.
a backup kind of thing.
One party.
It's a backup.
It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But two is more, and I think that maybe Audubon, we needed some help somehow, and I think that it would be great to find that part out. So I see that Nathaniel has his hand up, but I want to go to
But
David White.
can I just say one more thing? I applaud Audubon for doing this. We don't have the bandwidth or the capacity in our commission to monitor all our conservation restricted areas.
No.
So I am in support of this.
Yeah, it's just
I just wanted to say that.
What I'm seeing is that there's a couple members, newer members than who weren't on when we bought the land, and maybe they would want an opportunity to review this since I guess it just came in, the final document last night. So
I would, yeah, for sure, even though I've looked at it.
I get David White with his hand up. Sure.
Have we gotten any reports? Anybody? Any reports at all?
Good question. The land trust. We should pose that question to the land trust.
We should see any reports.
Mm.
Yep.
All right, take note. Any Nathaniel, are you waiting to?
I do, yes. As we're speaking, I think my recollection is why Mass Audubon became involved is one aspect of it was that they have the knowledge, they have the experience of monitoring CRs, and I think there was also, if I'm remembering, I think people felt the fundraising would go better if Mass Audubon was involved, and also if they held the restriction, it wasn't leaving it up to the town to do it. So I think that more people were more confident that this conservation restriction would be adhered to if it was just not left up to us, frankly, to do it. So I think it gave more people comfort and allowed them to contribute to the fundraising effort, knowing that there would be a private entity, a non-town entity involved to enforce it.
Hold on a second, Nathaniel, with your latest review, this memo of understanding, did it change anything that was spelled out in the original CR, or is it just making things clear?
No, it's not modifying the CR in any way. It's just an understanding between the two entities that have the authority to enforce and the obligation really to do the monitoring. So it's just working out who's going to take the lead. As it was originally drafted, I felt that the Conservation Commission was giving up all its rights to Mass Audubon. Town Council modified it, so it essentially said that we're reserving our rights, but essentially Mass Audubon will take the lead, but we can step in if we want. I'm not sure. I can't tell what Mass Audubon changed, if anything, once they sent it back. So I would like an opportunity, another 2 weeks to look at it if I could.
Great.
Yeah, I guess I'll summarize the email from Audubon.
Oh, thanks. That'd be helpful.
So Nicole said, I was comfortable with the town's edits, but just streamline the language for clarity, including removing examples in section A1.
Okay.
Oh, I just have one more comment, Chuck. So did I just have this personal experience with Mass Audubon and the Notch Forest in Western Massachusetts, where I'm from, where they were given sort of a role in some land management and decided to do a forestry project to try to plant climate resilient trees, which was a plus, but it was against the will of many townspeople because it ended up logging a sensitive area. So the only reason I say that is because it made me slightly I would have said they were the gold standard given my child's experience with them, but this just showed me there may be some slightly divergent goals between Mass Audubon's goals and the town's goals, for example. So that's one of the reasons I was sensitive to this.
All right. I think we're pretty clear. It needs to be reviewed. Brian McBride and maybe Mike Hillisgame is going to have some good comments at our next meeting, but I would expect, at least 2 weeks to review. So we're going to table this. Is that
Jackie, if you could send me the document, I'd appreciate it, if that's possible.
yes? So I think that there should be a Google Drive for our next meeting. You should just put it on that so everyone can access it through that instead of anything independent.
So Chuck, just to be clear, it'll be an agenda item for discussion at our next meeting.
That's what I'm hearing from the commission.
Okay.
And I'm willing
good.
to push it off another meeting if people aren't satisfied with reviews and changes so.
I also just added it to this meeting's Google Drive if anyone wants to go back and review it.
Great.
Would you like us just to make comments separately or on the document, or what's the best format? An email?
Making comments on the document, not direct edits, but comments or revision suggestions.
A comment balloon or something? Okay.
All right. Are we good? Everyone ready to move on? Our next agenda item is Mystic Street Bridge Amendment Request. So this is a request for an amendment. So I guess we need to understand the reason why we're having an amendment. So I'm gonna take a crack at this, but I'm gonna have David come in and unmute himself and catch up if where I messed up. So this is a center span issue, and I have been told that the center span was they suspected it was cement, and they formulated a water control plan based around those assumptions. But in fact, it's dried laid stone. And upon discovery, the contractor modified the water control plan, and David, on his review, determined that the changes qualify for an amendment. So, to incorporate this change into the work, they had to make major changes, major enough for David to believe that this is a minor change and that it should go to the Conservation Commission. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. So David's made his determination that we need to weigh in, and we're going to weigh in and find out if this in fact is a minor change. And that terminology is really horrible because minor in this case means it will be an amendment. And if we don't agree that it's a minor change, then our only other opportunity is to vote that it needs a notice of intent. So there's criteria that would determine if it's a minor change. The project, and I'll just go through that right now. The project purpose has not changed. The scope of the project has not increased. It still meets the regulatory standards. Resource areas remain protected, and there is no increase of potential adverse impacts. And so with that in mind, I don't know, David, do you want to give us a understanding of what brought this back to the commission?
Sorry, Chuck, the last 30 seconds or more cut out for me, but in my understanding, you're turning it over to me to...
I am. Just to, so I ran through how we determine if it's a minor change and what minor means. And then I ran through the items. And then, so with that in mind, for the commission, just to get an understanding of the scope and the scope today.
I'm turning off video so that my bandwidth is better. So the original order for the Mystic Street Bridge, which is total reconstruction of the bridge, included requirements for numerous things that pertain to this decision, but the foremost one is that they need to submit a water control plan. And when they realized the difference in how the bridge was originally constructed, that control plan grew beyond what we had originally intended that condition to address. We were thinking in terms of things like flash floods from big thunderstorms and so forth. And we conditioned, for example, the time of year restrictions to allow aquatic passage of migratory fish and so on. So, you know, we had given some thought to how this water control plan was supposed to be developed and implemented, but the conditions on the project, I should rephrase that, circumstances surrounding the project have changed sufficiently that what the water control plan now needs to involve is much more than what we had originally set out to address. And Bill Copperthorne's here from engineering. He can elaborate on what exactly I mean by that. Before you chime in, Bill, excuse me, I want to say that we have two agenda items for this topic tonight. We have this decision about whether it's a so-called minor change or a new notice of intent. And then we have the actual hearing for the amendment, presuming that we settle on this being an amendment. We wanted to streamline the process and have a hearing later in the evening, you know, if that comes to pass. If we vote to make it an amendment, we can get to that later. I mention that because I think we should decide this vote, this minor change versus a new NOI, on the merits of whether a different water control plan is in the category of an amendment or of a completely new notice of intent. And then when we get into the hearing, you know, if we get into the hearing later tonight, we can elaborate on the proposal for a water control plan, have a discussion around what that would involve and what the commission would like to see given the circumstances that Bill's about to describe. So I hope that's clear.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
I think it gets murky and we talk about our, like in conservation terms. I guess, Bill, I would just add to that, you know what the order of condition says and what it allowed. And I'd like to know in your mind if this is sufficiently different enough that you think that this is an appropriate action by the Conservation Commission, because then we could just move on to the amendment.
You're telling me you want me to just tell you what to do? That sounds
In your opinion, as the person overlooking the project, does this new work that was proposed by the contractor fit inside of the original order of conditions, or do you think it does not?
I think it does, and I'll elaborate
Did
a
you
little
say
bit.
does?
I think it does fit within the existing order to qualify for amendment. Did I answer that correctly?
Yep, just wanted to make sure I was clear. Go
Okay.
ahead.
And so I know there's some faces on here I don't think I might have met. It's been a while since I appeared before the group. So as David noted, my name is Bill Copperthorne. I'm the town engineer for the town of Arlington. This order of conditions actually came about from my predecessor, Wayne Chenard. So I'm trying to best understand what the process was that you guys went through a couple of years back with him. But to get to a couple of the questions and a couple of the notes to try to provide some clarification. So it's In regards to the center span itself, as you noted, that is kind of the crux of the issue. It's not necessarily that the materials changed, but it's more the condition of the materials. So there was an expectation that there was granite, a combination of granite and concrete. The expectation was that the granite center pier portions, for lack of technical, I'm going to say, were a little bit more solid, a little bit more intact. So they're kind of in a porous state now, which kind of speaks to some of the reason why we are replacing this bridge. And the thought is there's the potential for more of a potential for debris to drop as we're removing it. So my understanding is when the order of conditions was presented, when the NOI was presented originally, the original hearing, we talked about an excavator coming in, essentially grabbing everything from above, pulling it out, no actual work in the brook. Nothing would change with this proposal. That is still how the work would be done. But given kind of the different nature of the actual conditions of the block pier, there's more concern about debris coming down. And in the order of conditions, there's a number 28 says there should be a debris and a net to essentially capture that material. Well, partially that would be held up by the pier and the abutments that we're taking down. So that works well for the superstructure, for the bridge deck itself. But when it comes to the removal of the pier, it might not fully capture what we hoped it would capture. So there's more of a chance that debris could get into the brook, which again, we can just have someone monitoring and pulling it out or watching as it does to assure those big pieces would not remain in the stream bed. But I'd propose that this dewatering plan is more of an alternate approach to try to meet the same means of protecting the stream bed, in that we did share a draft of an initial submittal. I'll note, and maybe this is getting into the hearing stuff, but I'll note that hasn't been approved. That's the initial approach that the contractor came to us. Basically, what we're looking for today was initially just, is that something that you'd even entertain? And then two, what steps would be needed or what you need to
Sure,
see.
Bill, I don't want to take up too much of the
Sure.
commission's time, but I would like you to tell us what was originally approved by the contractor and then the changes that they're proposing to incorporate this finding of the center span.
Well, so far their plan has not been approved. That's part of the issue. We've been holding off on final approval of the plan so that we could speak to the commission and make sure that as the town and as the design engineer, we do not approve something that the commission would then view as not compliant with our permit.
So in the order of conditions, we did not specify conditions for this water control plan. It was left up to the engineering, like means and methods kind of situation.
David might be able to speak more about but all we really had a condition on was the high flow contingency, which is one of the outstanding comments we had on their original plan anyways, that you need to provide the high flow contingency for whatever process you'll be using when you go to do the demolition. But there was no specific note as to what should be done by the commission.
Sure. Okay, hold on a second. So I'm just going to let everyone understand we're trying to get to the answer of whether this is minor and it needs an amendment, or if it's a notice of intent. I think, so I'd like to have Nathaniel answer this. David's make a determination. Do we have to, we're essentially ratifying his determination. Is that correct? Or can we not approve it and say, no, we think this is incorporated in the original order of conditions. Maybe we tweak something or make sure that David watches something. So can we bring this back from David's determination that it comes to the commission? Do you have the answer to that, Nathaniel?
Okay, so I'm sorry. So you're saying that David Morgan proceeded under the administrative?
Yeah, section A.
of our regulations, which
Of our
sorry, I don't have in front of
regulations.
us. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So he has that authority to say, okay, I don't want to approve it this way. I'm going to put it in front of the Conservation Commission. You're asking, can we essentially overrule him and say, no, you can approve it, send it back? I don't think the regulations prohibit that from happening.
Okay, so
For
we have
sure,
three.
but
We have three
but
options. I just wanted to be
I think
that to
you're
be
right.
clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Send it back to him, approve this as an amendment to the order, or require a new NOI to be filed.
Well, that goes with Bill's original. He doesn't think that this is a change to the original order of conditions. So I just wanted to make sure that we all understood that, including Bill. So I think Susan Chapnick had her hand up first. So Susan,
Yep.
Thank you. I think Bill said it wasn't a change that required an NOI. I think he agrees it needs an amendment, or maybe I'm misinterpreting you, Bill.
yeah, correct us, Bill.
That is what I meant.
Right.
That's
So it is a change, but
You're a
it's a
mind
minor
reader.
change, and you're recommending that the Conservation Commission consider an amendment to the order of conditions for this minor change. I'm just trying to interpret for the commission.
Yeah,
Okay.
now we're all
Yeah,
confused.
and I mean, that is officially my role, right? Like I
Right.
am the arbiter of whether.
And that's what you did. That's why you put it on this way.
Yeah,
right?
and so to chuck in Nathaniel's point, there is no rule stopping you all from saying, no, you got that wrong. You can do this administratively and put it back on us. So that is also perfectly fine.
Okay, so
Sure.
that wasn't my question. I was just clarifying. I do.
No, that was an
have-
important clarification.
Okay, so my next point is that we had just a few pre-construction special conditions. One, as Bill would elaborate if this got to the amendment, but I think it's important that we all understand them so we know that they would be changed. One was a debris net or tarp, which, as Bill said, would work for some of the work that's happening, but wouldn't work for removing this section that they thought was solid concrete, and that's not going to help make sure everything doesn't get into the brook. They would still do that for the other parts. That's number 28. Number 29, they had to put straw wattles and silt fencing. That's fine. 30 had to do with a turbidity control plan and unexpected high flows. That's also what Bill was talking about. So whatever change they're proposing to replace this midsection of the bridge is not in our conditions, but our conditions, the intent is that we control debris getting into the brook. So I just wanted to make that clear for everybody. In my opinion, just throwing it out there, this is an amendment to the original order of conditions.
All right, Susan. Nathaniel Stevens.
Thanks. Yeah, I was going to ask which condition we are specifically talking about. I think Susan has that as condition 28. Respectfully to Bill, I think it's our determination, not Bill's, as to whether we think this is an amendment or require a new notice of intent.
Well, that wasn't the original question.
Awesome.
The original question was.
I think that's what I understood.
No, what I asked
wasn't
what I asked. I asked if he thought that it was covered. This change was covered under the original order of conditions. So he disagreed with David. And he originally said yes, but I don't think he understood the terminology. Now he's agreeing with David, saying yes, it should be a amended order of conditions. So
right. Okay. Yeah, I agree. It's a very minor amendment. I'm also wondering if there isn't other language in the order of conditions that would have covered that, which gives the Conservation Commission. I thought there's a boilerplate that says the commission can, require additional measures to protect the resource areas, and I would say that,
or the administrator. Yeah, that's what
administrator. Yeah, there. So yeah, I would just, to get this process going, I would make a motion to say, make a motion that the commission determine that this change of condition 28 it can be done through an amended order of conditions rather than filing of notice of intent. I don't know if anyone wants to second that or
I would second it, but I
Further
want to hear
motion?
what David Kaplan has to say because his hand is up.
sure. Yeah.
Go ahead, David.
Thank you. So yeah, sorry, I'm trying to follow along here. And I just want to get a sense of, so the proposed water control plan, is the intent of that plan so that the removal of the pier that may be a little bit more crumbly than you initially thought would happen in the dry to the extent possible to minimize, so if there were debris that falls into the bed, that could be physically removed and you work in the dry. Is that?
Yeah,
is that the plan?
that's I think an important clarification. There would still be essentially the debris tarp aspect, which is included as one of the submittals within the plan, that essentially they lay, the purpose is you could lay it on the dry stream bed or the dry-ish stream bed at least, as opposed to the brook. And that way, any material that comes down, they'll just hook it up at the end of the day to the excavator and pull it out. And it's like it didn't happen. And I would also just add a note of, I think with care and observation, we can still try to, we could still move forward with how it's written. Obviously, it just makes it a little less ideal to be working in the wet conditions. We have the turbidity curtain downstream of the bridge for any fines that might be left within the material. It's anticipated that it's still going to be mostly large pieces that are pulled out readily with the excavator. This is kind of, like I said, an alternate approach that we think would potentially be even more protective. And in truth, of course, nothing is just out of the goodness of their hearts. Obviously, the contractor thinks that this will make their job easier in the long run as well, or they would not be proposing it. I'm a realist. So if that helps at all.
Right. So then for the commission, then are we saying this is an amended order of conditions because there isn't currently a condition that covers this process, and that we need to add some for additional protections, or because this to me seems like means and methods, it doesn't necessarily seem like the nature of the project is changing in a considerable way.
Yeah, I think this is what I'm hearing. What you just said. The commission has discovered that a new process is happening and they haven't been able to put conditions on it. But I think Nathaniel brought up a good point. What would prevent the commission just doing that if there's a clause in the order of conditions to modify the erosion control on site, or our own administrator? So is David Morgan, can you search for such a clause or such a condition? Because
I'm
again,
looking right now.
this is, to me, and I was talking to David this afternoon, and I had some comments about what bridge work is like, and it's really tough. And so it seems to me that I can't imagine that this wasn't anticipated, where things were going to fall off. It sounds like the best way to do it would be to divert the stream and be able to throw down a tarp. So I think that's what I'm hearing. And if the tarp is the only way to make this work, then that is what from Bill Copperthorne has just said. So,
Right, and that's what it sounds like they're proposing, correct?
Correct.
Hold on, Susan, unless you have the clause.
At number 38, and it's a little bit different from our typical erosion control, because we included the turbidity curtain and the tarp and net, silt sack, catch basin protections, etc. But it says the commission and its agents shall have the discretion to require additional control methods during construction if necessary, which is our standard language.
And it doesn't say that we have the approval, review and approval process over the water control plan. This is the only I'm just trying to figure out whether this should have come to the commission anyways, or it would have been more or less on site.
I'm not understanding the question, I'm sorry.
So the water control plan, who reviews and approves it? The commission, the administrator, or it's not mentioned in its means and methods?
Susan has her hand up.
Yeah, Susan, you want to take a crack at that?
Yeah, there's no water control plan, Chuck. We did not call out a water control plan. We didn't think the water needed to be diverted or stopped. We just said do it in July to February so that it wasn't when the fish were running, and, you know, have some kind of plan for high flow conditions. We had no water control plan. Now, obviously, when Bill went out to bid, he asked his contractor, you know, what are you doing? And they put together, they said, we can't do it this way. We have to have a water control plan. So now they're looking at slowing down or stopping, doing it on a dry bed. To me, that's a minor change.
Yeah, Susan,
but
you
it's
already mentioned
significant. Okay.
I'm
But I'm
trying
just
to
saying there's no water
eliminate all the
control
talk
plan.
in between,
Yeah,
in
this-
between this. And I understand that it's a water, you know, good information that we didn't review the water control plan. But I think what David Kaplan's trying to get to is this, does this have a right to come back to the Conservation Commission, or was it sufficiently covered in the order of conditions so that David could have made these changes himself?
Can I speak to that in light of what Susan
Sure,
said?
I've lost you. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Susan's right. There was no condition for a water control plan specifically, and those are the conditions that have changed that led Bill and the contractor to develop one. However, we did require, you know, erosion controls, turbidity control plan, the plan for unexpected high flows, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, there is effectively a water control plan inherent in the conditions that we laid out, but it wasn't made explicit. And so in order to sort of accomplish some of these things, and in light of the changing conditions, Bill's gone and had one developed. So that's why I think that it arises to the level of commission review, because it wasn't sort of detailed in the original permit what this plan ought to include. And there are pieces of the order of conditions that speak to the need for it to be comprehensive. The sort of the way that Susan summarized it as like, this is the ethos of the order that we're trying to sort of uphold by having an amendment.
All right. Just David, it seems like I hear that you questioning, or at least had some questions. Have you, David Kaplan, do you have any other thoughts on where we should go? I'm not sure. I haven't heard from anyone else and what they think.
Well, Nathaniel has a motion on the table.
And Nathaniel has well, I wasn't seconded, so we're discussing.
I'm just thinking about, you know, the implications of the implementation of this water control plan. You know, the interests were water quality, turbidity. I think the resource is better protected by doing the work in the dry and not allowing water to flow through the demolition portions. So diverting and having clean water coming out the other side. It's a very impacted construction site as it is. I think the marginal impacts of creating smaller dry spots are going to improve, you know, the condition of the resource upstream and downstream. So I mean, I'm just thinking that, you know, if the, you know, the interests are protected with the turbidity control plan and the erosion control plan, then, you know, this
And the right,
to me,
I would say, and the right for David or the commission to add additional conditions if needed.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think this is, I mean, I'm not sure if this needs additional commission approval, or I'm just on the fence that it does need. That, you know, as long as the interests are protected and we have the right to address those potential impacts after review of this plan.
Any other comments from other commissioners?
Chuck, I have my hand up. I don't know if you can see me.
Oh, no, I
Um,
didn't. Sorry. Go ahead.
No worries.
Stanley.
Thanks. No, I'll withdraw the motion. I agree with David Kaplan. The more we discuss this, David Morgan cited special condition 38. It's actually, that's a rehash of special condition 18 that's also in the permit. Talks about the commissioner or the commission's authority to require more changes to an erosion and almost they call it damage prevention plan. So I'm fine. I guess I would vote to ask David to just approve this administratively, because I don't see that this even raises to the level of an amendment.
David Morgan.
So that's my motion, I guess.
So can I just, before we move on with your motion?
Yeah.
David, do you feel confident about this? Do you need, and I feel like you can handle this, but I just want to hear it from you. If this passes.
Yes, I think we can handle it administratively. Bill and I have been in frequent contact about this project and already have alternatives in mind for how we might change the water control plan. So
okay, and with that, can I get a second?
I'll second.
And I believe that was David Kaplan.
Yes.
Mike Gildersgame.
Yes.
Brian McBride.
Yes.
Susan Chapnick.
No.
Nathaniel Stevens.
Yes.
David Kaplan.
Yes.
And Chuck Troney says yes. Okay. And
how about David White?
Oh, and David. I'll get this soon. David White, I apologize. David White.
Yes, I said yes.
David, thank you. Okay, Susan is a no, and the rest are yeses. So, Bill, you stay in close contact with David Morgan and no longer need you around for your amended order of conditions. So, have a good night.
All right. I appreciate all of your time and nice to see you all.
Yeah, same.
See you, Bill. Take care.
See you later,
Thank
Bill.
you.
Okay, so that was a discussion item. So it did sound like a hearing, but it was a discussion item. And so we're going to move right along to a Water Bodies Working Group update by David White, who shall not be forgotten.
Well, nothing new since I reported last time. We had a meeting today about McLennan Park and the ponds there. There's a lot more going on with that.
Okay, thank you for that. And we have a CPA update from Brian McBride.
Oops, let's see, am I live here? Yeah, there we go. Good. Yeah, no news. The deadline for CPA proposals is October 3rd. I did want to ask you, I sent a note to Susan and Chuck about a potential proposal from the Concom to CPA for CPA funds that I'd like to have a discussion with at some point. Maybe David Morgan or Jackie or I could work out a draft or something if folks think this is of interest.
Can you give us a quick summary during your liaison report?
Yeah. So yeah, the quick summary would be the use of CPA funds to enhance Conservation Commission owned lands with signage, invasive species reduction, potentially plantings and trail enhancements. Some or all of those. And some of them fall into gray areas for CPA funding, and I have to double check that. But I think there's an opportunity. We talked about this with the Sims Hospital land a couple of meetings ago. That we have these lands which could use improvements in access, which could use improvements in trails. Signage would be helpful. Maybe some historic signage, maybe some natural wildlife identification and signage. I think there's a play here for CPA money, and I don't think the town is spending enough CPA money on natural habitat in general. and this might be a way to do it. That in general would be my proposal.
That sounds great. When does this need to be formalized?
That's a problem, Chuck. Yeah, October 3rd is just a
I think
preliminary.
you missed this year, right? Yeah, do you think so?
I don't know. If we thought this was straightforward, and I'd love Jackie and David's opinion about whether we might ask for a small amount, like $50,000, to hire a consultant to identify priorities as a starting step. That would be relatively straightforward. If they didn't think that was a good idea, yeah, it might be a next year thing.
I thought someone was doing a survey of conservation land or open spaces, or did that
The
not
trees.
get approved?
The tree survey, maybe? Is that what
Okay.
you're thinking?
No.
The
Okay.
urban-
Maybe I'm
The
thinking of
land
something that didn't get
management
approved.
plan. The land
Yeah.
management.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
Thanks. So,
yeah.
Susan. Yeah. Okay. So what's the status with that? Would that be useful
That
information?
did get
It's
approved.
done. The land management plan was done. I don't know if there's another part of it. David Morgan would know, but he had to leave for a few minutes.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Okay.
So I think that's a 30,000 foot view, the land management plan. And this is more granular about actually putting up signage, maybe enhancing some trails, that sort of concrete on the ground stuff.
And with putting up signage and doing some invasive management, it needs a study.
Well, that's generally the way I think David and the planning group do these things, is to do a small
actually, I
bite.
remember him saying that. Yeah. Okay. So I do remember him. So no sense of belaboring that. So I just think that your conversation sounds like the commission is all for more activity on our property and improvements, and signage is a great way to do that. Invasive management. Need to get with David and Jackie and find out if there's bandwidth to put this together, and we can put you on the next agenda for a more full-throated discussion.
And
Sounds
if I may recommend, we'd have to focus on properties that are just conservation, not
Okay.
park and rec and conservation, because we're not good at doing those kinds of things.
Yeah, Monotony Rocks and Hills Hill are off the table. Gotcha.
Okay.
Jackie, I'm going to ask you just to make a note so we can talk about this during our prep meeting with the chairs and you and David.
Okay, I will.
Thank you. All right. Brian, I assume that's it, and we're ready to move on? Sure. So we're going to move on, and Sarah Alfaro Franco is not here tonight. Go to the recreation update, and David is back. I don't know if there's a recreation update, David Morgan.
I was informed that a number of fishing line receptacles have been installed. Spy Pond, Hills Pond, possibly also the res. Maybe you've also seen these out in the wild or via email, social media, whatever. That is my update from recreation for this time.
Sure. And I'm going to give Susan a minute here. Not that she asked for one, but I think it's a good segue into her conversation. I mean, obviously, this fishing line is a big deal here with the Conservation Commission. We have tried, me and Susan reached out to different people on the select board, and my latest attempt, but I did CC Susan, is reaching out to Jim Feeney and asked for some time on the select board meeting to discuss this issue. So, with that, Susan, what do you think about these fishing line holders and like safe fishing line throwaway holders?
So I haven't gone to see them myself. I have experience with them in the past at Hills Pond specifically, where nobody's used them, or I've seen fishing line around anyway. Most recently, Laura Kiesel, who gave several presentations to the commission, she's with Save Arlington Wildlife, has sent around to certain groups photos of fishing line and hooks being right near these receptacles. I mean, people are not using them. There's an education piece, and a lot of this, unfortunately, are kids. So the commission sent a letter signed by Chuck Tirone, who's our leader, and we had agreed to the select board asking for their support to pause fishing specifically at Hills Pond because we had all agreed that that's a stressed small pond. And we haven't gotten traction on that yet. We're still trying. I think that I commend the Park and Rec to try to do something, but it's not it's an action that's not going to be very effective, in my opinion and in reality. And I see David White has his hand up, so he's probably seen these as well.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Basically, they're increase awareness a little bit, but they're not very effective in terms of solving the problem.
Chuck, I would also add to that I've been at Hills Pond in the recent couple of days, and there are 4 signs and receptacles around that little pond. I didn't notice any line or bobbers in the trees. I did not inspect the receptacles to see if they're being used, but as Susan and David were saying, in the past, we have not seen much use for those. So we'll see what happens, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, it's I had reached out to select board, and what I got back, and I think David, I think Susan reached out also. And what I got back was that they wanted to have town council review this to understand if they had any authority over the pond to make these big decisions. I don't think that's exactly what we were asking for. And so I think Susan got back to me this week about writing a little email to Jim Feeney, in which I ended up sending out tonight, just saying that, irregardless of all that discussion about who has authority, we would like to talk about this in front of the select board. And so hopefully that would be something they agree to. And if they do, it would be great to see a show of all the conservation members, at that meeting or online to support this and to say things. I think that would be, we're not trying to do anything except to make them feel like we felt when we watched that horrifying slideshow about all the animals and all the turtles, and all those hooks getting stuck, and it's making things more complicated for, as Susan says, an already overstressed pond. So that's where I am with that. But anyways, hopefully we'll be on that agenda soon. Any other comments about?
A little footnote. This suggestions some further tree trimming to prevent lines from catching up in the trees. So just to mention that.
Yeah, I think that's great. And then just cleaning up around the edges is a great idea. More educate. I think it's a multi-prong approach is what's needed. Who like, I'm not somebody who wants to stop kids from fishing, but if they know, it's very important to make sure that that hook doesn't get left in the tree or doesn't get left, on the bank. That, that's where we want to be. So
I would just note there's a couple of chats regarding this that you may want to pay attention to.
sure. So Susan, do you want? Is there any chats that we need to talk about here?
Sure. Karen Grossman, who's on, she's listening in. Hi, Karen. She just put in the chat that there have been similar issues at Spy Pond, and that mainly fisher people, or young fisher people, are going into areas they shouldn't, through the fences that are supposed to keep people off the banks. So things like that are happening, and the same kinds of issues are happening at Spy Pond and maybe the res. The reason we wrote the letter about Hills Pond, as we all know, is because it's a small pond and it can handle this kind of pressure. It already has a lot of other pressure. However, that doesn't mean that these issues don't extend to other water bodies. And if at some point we need a more holistic approach, rather than just receptacles for fishing line. I think I paraphrased what Karen wanted to say, but Chuck,
Sure.
you can decide if you want to let Karen speak or not.
Yeah, Karen, thanks you for attending tonight's meeting. Is there something that you wanted to add to Susan's comments?
So I did talk at the selectmen's meeting when Susan Stamps made a presentation about this issue and asked for further action. So they are aware that fishing from Spy Pond Park, especially the little walk down areas, and getting into the planting beds, we have thought, along with David Morgan, that perhaps permanent fencing at the end of those little walk downs would be of assistance, since the temporary fencing there is not keeping people out. So that might be an additional preventive measure that could be taken. And I don't know whether we're going to present that idea or not. Remains to be seen. We've been discussing it with David Morgan.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, so we want to strike while the iron's hot. I think we're all trying to have our voice heard. And again, Susan, when, I know that wasn't Susan, weren't you at that select board meetings too, talking? And so
I was, yes.
I think that it's important to, keep this up and see where it takes us. All right, so there's not been, this was kind of like an added item to our discussions about recreation. If there's more discussion needed at the Conservation Commission, just, whoever submit to David Morgan, and we'll see if it's appropriate to talk about that. I think that we need to talk to the select board before we go any further, but coordinate between fencing, I would say, whose property is it, who would pay for it, and who maintains it, because fences always get taken down. So I'm going to move on at this moment, and we're going to go to our hearings. And I think that Jackie kind of had a notion of how this meeting would go when she put the agenda together, because first thing on our agenda tonight is not the town project, it's the Spy Pond project. So a request for an amendment to a notice of intent for Spy Pond, DEP file number 091344. So request for an amendment to notice of intent of Spy Pond. The Arlington Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to consider a request for an amendment to the notice of intent under the Wetlands Protection Act and the Arlington Wetlands Protection for Aquatic Invasive Management in Spy Pond. Okay, so I'm going to go right to Nathaniel at this moment before I go on with this.
Sorry, yeah, I didn't see a item for an update on the Sims project.
Sorry, and I thought that was discussed with you, so it wasn't on there for a reason. So if you have an update,
or we can wait until the next one. Yeah, the quick update is I had a good meeting with the property management company, the property owner. They're working on the forestry management plan that's underway. And moreover, we've had some further progress in dealing with the encroachments. We've gotten hold of the 2 or 3 property owners that we thought we were going to have to send a letter to. Adam Post, who you all may have remembered, who works for the property management company, has had conversations, in-person conversations with some people, and they're talking about cost sharing in terms of removing those encroachments. So we've had a good deal of progress, I feel, that's happened in the past month. But we're still not there yet, slowly but surely, but we're certainly headed in the right direction.
Are there any timelines on this project? Would you know when there'd be more of a substantive update coming from, I guess, from yourself?
I think the forestry management plan we're expected to get within the next month or two. In terms of the encroachments, that I don't have a set timeline on that.
Okay. All right. Keep us informed, and thanks for the update.
I will.
Okay, so we're back to the hearings, and again, I'm not going to read that, but here we are. We're going to start up on notice of intent for an amended order of conditions for DEP file number 91-344. So with that, who do we have here for tonight's hearing?
Presenting the Chuck.
So David Morgan's presenting this. Okay. So David, take it away.
This is a topic that you'll be familiar with from previous water bodies, group updates, and discussion that we've had at commission meetings over the past year or more. We've talked about the need to treat Phragmites at Spy Pond, and we anticipated this when we wrote the most recent order of conditions. At the time, we were thinking that treating Phragmites with imazamox was a viable path forward, and so only approved that herbicide in the existing order, hence the need for an amendment, because we've been working with Essex Horticulture, Brad Barber, Spy Pond Committee and Water Bodies Working Groups really been leading the charge on mapping and sort of describing the problem for a consultant to address. He recommended Essex because they had come out to assess previously and may have even done the work the last time that Phragmites was treated in Spy Pond. So they have familiarity in either case, and we made a site visit with Essex, Jackie and I with Brad several weeks ago at this point, and we toured the sites that are up for treatment. They're very small. As we've been having this discussion here and the Water Bodies Working Group, in my mind, these were much larger areas. And so, the need for an amendment was much larger than just changing the use of the herbicide, but potentially like expanding the scope of work that the permit covered. But these are small pockets of Phragmites that are emergent aquatic vegetation on the shoreline by the Boys and Girls Club. It's probably, I'm going to estimate maximum 100 square feet of Phragmites there. And I would say smaller than that at the other end of Spy Pond, closer to the outlet, next to a private residence with an incredible silver maple tree. That one's probably only 50 or 60 square feet in coverage. So the proposal, well, actually I should round that out and say that the full scope of work would include treating at Elizabeth Island, but based on our site visit, it's very difficult to access the Phragmites that's there. It's growing into a lot of greenbrier. It's not in a place on the island where a path can really easily reach. There are numerous reasons why it was less advisable to treat there now. So the plan for the time being is to seek this amendment in order to accomplish the work at the other two sites leaving Elizabeth Island off the table for the time being. As I say, the amendment is just to include glyphosate as an approved herbicide. And I should say a couple things about how that would happen. First, when I said at the outset that we anticipated Phragmites treatment ahead of seeking the permit from the Conservation Commission, we included in our correspondence with Natural Heritage Program a list of possible herbicides that could be used to treat Phragmites. And so they've already approved the use of glyphosate for this purpose. We won't need to seek any further approval from them in order to accomplish this work. And we shouldn't, wait. We don't need to wait for them in order to make a decision as the commission. The other thing is, we're not proposing foliar spray. It would be direct application, either cut and dab or a wipe kind of application of glyphosate. So you're minimizing overspray. It's only going where it's intended to go. I believe that is everything. We've had some pretty substantial conversations on this in the past, so I don't want to belabor the point, but happy to respond to questions, comments, concerns, etc.
David, what action are you looking for from the commission?
We're seeking an amendment to permit use of glyphosate for specifically non-foliar application to Phragmites in Spy Pond.
So I know Susan has a lot of questions. I think it would be great to bring Susan on because she actually prepared some comments and has always been, very active about the chemicals. So I think we'll listen to what Susan has to say and then go back to the Conservation Commission. Susan.
Thank you, Chuck. I just wanted to say I had sent some comments or questions ahead of time to David, who answered me, which was great. But I wanted to just briefly review that with the commission so that you have all the information for the questions that I asked, because you might have had the same questions. So the current order of conditions has herbicide treatment for Phragmites as cut and dab using Imazamox, which is a type of herbicide. Essex says that in their experience, Imazamox does not work for Phragmites, because I had asked David, why are we changing the herbicide? And so they said they've had success with glyphosate using a non-ionic surfactant. So then my next question was, did the Water Bodies Working Group review the use of glyphosate using direct foliar application with a non-ionic surfactant, and do they agree that that's appropriate and protective? And the answer I got from David Morgan was yes, the Water Bodies Working Group has reviewed that and thinks it's appropriate. In that case, I thought then it was a minor change that would require an amendment, because I trust the Water Bodies Working Group to review those issues for us. The next question I had was in the proposal that we had, there were 3 treatment areas, and David just mentioned that they're removing the treatment area on Elizabeth Island. The other treatment areas, one was behind the Elks Lodge, maybe that's the same as the Boys and Girls Club that you were talking about, David. And my question was, why are we treating private property? Because, for example, in Mystic Lake, where they want to do aquatic control, the residents or the owner, like the Medford Boat Club, comes to us and says, with a proposal, and they pay for it. David had said, and this is just up for discussion, that this is right in the water. So it can be considered aquatic, and it can be, under our umbrella of doing aquatic management, which is an acceptable response. And then my next question was, do we have the budget for this? Because our original budget for Phragmites control, I went back to the water bodies budget that we approved, was $5,000. And originally I thought we were doing all 3 areas, which was more than 5,000, but probably this falls under the 5,000 if you're deleting Elizabeth Island. So I asked for an accounting of the water bodies fund to make sure that even if we considered this as an amendment, this was something that could be done with the current budget. And I think, David, you sent me that, and it looks like we have plenty of funds available, correct? Okay. So those were all my questions.
So it sounds like
And
you've been
paraphrased,
satisfied.
answered, and I've been, yeah, I'm satisfied with the answers.
Okay, so
Thank you.
we're back to the Mystic Bridge question here. So the project's purpose has not changed. The scope of the project has not increased. It still meets the regulatory standards, and resource areas remain protected. There's no increase in potential. There's no increase potential for adverse impacts. I hadn't heard that Essex does aquatic work, but we use Essex in Reading, and we use others also. By far, Essex is what they say they end up doing it, and they do it the way that they said they were going to do it. So I have no doubt that if we agree to a foliar wipe, that's how they're going to do it. So I'm pretty satisfied, but that's not what this is about. This is about whether this is a minor change, meaning that it needs an amendment, or this is something that is basically covered under the scope, the original scope of the order of conditions. So I believe those are the 2 choices that the commission has. So with that, I'll see if there are any hands for people to talk that are on the commission. Yeah, Dave,
I'm just curious too. So how do we specified permitted chemicals, and now we're adding one? Is there a way to do that without, an amendment? Is there like a insignificant change, something that we can document? Now this is a permitted herbicide for this purpose, or?
So I was thinking along the same lines, and I think that so was Susan, because is this an equivalent or preferable method? And I was wondering if there was a language in the order of conditions that allows a sideways move. David Morgan.
But can I just,
Susan,
can
sure.
I comment? I in general, based on the commission's vote for the Mystic Bridge, I would say that, then maybe you have a comparable vote here, and then it's a slippery slope. How much is in admin approval for these things? And our admin approval section of our wetlands, of our local bylaw, is very narrow. I personally am very concerned about doing an admin approval allowable under the permit for chemicals. I think that there's new information that comes along all the time. I would like to see that and approve it or not approve it as an amendment and make it official as a part of the order of conditions, which is why we were so careful to specify the exact chemicals we approved the first time. And it's not just the chemicals that's changing, it's also the application method. So I hear you, Dave Kaplan, and I understand you're trying to make this just a little easier, but I am not in favor of administratively approving alternate chemicals for control in water bodies. I would like to have that review.
No, I appreciate that, Susan. I don't think I was necessarily implying
Yeah.
that. I was just sort of asking the question that, is the change of a chemical something that warrants that? So thank you for elaborating on that.
Thank you.
So David Morgan, I'm hoping you're still searching the order of conditions while I turn to Nathaniel Stevens.
Thanks, Chuck. Yes, I agree with Susan because special condition 21 says herbicide use shall be limited to subsurface injections of diquat at low concentrations and blah, 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 blah. I mean, as Susan pointed out, we spent a good deal of time discussion on which herbicides to allow and which, essentially limiting it to specific ones that we allowed. So I think that this rises to the level of an amendment because we are essentially asking to change that specific condition. I don't see that it's the same as we had with the bridge because we didn't have a very specific condition in there for that plan. So I think it can be treated differently.
So
I agree with Susan.
You searched
The
order.
Special order of conditions number 21 reads under the heading management techniques, herbicide use shall be limited to subsurface injection of diquat at low concentrations to blah, 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 a certain amount directly within actively growing populations of target submerged vegetation. Community spot application. I'm just trying to summarize here. There's also specific conditions about herbicide applications shall be at time of years. Water level shall be at a certain area, at a certain level is condition 23. 24, herbicide application shall be at the lowest effective application level. And I thought there was something in here about the one that begins with an I, but I don't remember seeing it. But it was
also in 21, Nathaniel.
It is in 21. Okay.
Application.
Thanks.
Of the mesomoxis.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Second part of that. Thanks, David.
So
So we are essentially the order of conditions as stands, limits it to those 1 or 2 or 3 types of herbicides. So if they're asking to use a different one, I feel that we need to amend the order.
Sure.
I would also add the administrative approval section of our regs. I believe it says specifically that changes in chemical treatments are not something that can be treated, or sorry, not changes, use of any chemical treatments is not something that you've done via administrative approval. So I think it carries through to the amendment.
All right. So I would ask, so Nathaniel, have the order of conditions open and the last page. Well, who was the applicant?
The town.
On this,
Yeah.
the town, I think. Yeah.
The town. But nowhere in that document does it mention the Elks Club or the Girls and Boys Club.
Well, I guess, are you reading too much into the description that?
Well, I'm assuming that
No,
Phragmites
right, they're not.
does not respect property line. And if
Right.
we're going to be eradicating or treating Phragmites, it's highly likely that there is some slope on both of these properties. So I don't know how that's handled with private property work by the town, but if we're on that property and we're getting an amendment, they get, in my opinion, permission unless you're going to stop exactly on the property line.
I mean, our permit only authorizes work in Spy Pond. This is specifically land under water bodies that we're counting as our jurisdiction. So
Good point.
if it is emergent and growing from land that we would consider Spy Pond, I think that's within the jurisdiction of the permit.
So the amendment can say we're giving permission only for Phragmites that's in, within land under water body.
But
Yeah,
does
I
that
think that's
really make-
definitionally the case.
So, do you still feel that way if, you know, the land underwater is on that private property? I'm just wondering, Nathaniel, because I'm going to go with whatever you say.
I'll make something up.
Because I didn't.
Yeah.
No, I'm putting you on
Hey,
the spot.
Nathaniel,
You're absolutely right.
you know, this is your
Yeah.
chance. Go
Yes,
for
I
it.
know.
No,
That's
it's
what I'm
not.
going
It's
for.
not that. I just want to see the twisting and turning here to make it work.
Right,
Because
right.
property
Yeah,
lines, I
thanks.
would say, would have precedent over land underwater.
Well,
because I
remember
don't see
our
that as property line.
standard condition says that we're not granting property rights, but if you're saying that in essence that
We're allowing work.
if we're allowing work on people's property who haven't signed or
should be
haven't given
notified.
consent to it, yeah. And again, it's unfortunately too bad someone from Essex isn't here to actually tell us whether they meant to say along the western shore, like physically on the shore, or is it in the water, along the western shore. I don't know.
But I think what we're voting on tonight is number one, should it be an amendment
Yeah.
or not? Should it be an NOI or not? Should it be administrative or not? And then number two, if we vote that it's an amendment, we're
Right.
voting for an amendment for a change to the chemical and process to treat Phragmites. We're not saying where.
No, not absolutely wrong, because two things
We
are
have to say-
added. Elks Club is part of the description.
Well,
Well, that's what I'm saying, Chuck. You may be reading into it's not
Yeah.
clearly stated. A map would be better in than this narrative because it's
Yeah, and I would also
Right.
caution that if, I don't know, it's a rare number, 40% of the Phragmites are on private property, does it make sense to treat only the remaining part of the Phragmites? It doesn't seem to me to make sense. So if you want to go down that route of being specific about property lines, I think we need to clarify that.
and our permit, when we do treatment aquatically, we don't say in the permit where it's going to be treated. We say that we're going to do a survey first. So the permit itself does not have specific areas that are being treated by these chemicals. It just has means and methods and chemicals, do's and don'ts. But it doesn't say the areas we're treating in the permit for anything else. So why should we say the area for Phragmites? To me, that's a separate discussion.
I agree. The permit describes 4,443,120 square feet of permitted area. So I think we should go with that as we amend this to allow Phragmites.
Which is 105 acres which is Spy Pond, right?
Right. So it's and it specifically says land under water is checked. So I think there's a presumption that's where the work will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. So technically it can't occur on bank. So, yeah.
Well, that's
So I
good.
make a motion that this amendment would be an amendment to the order of conditions and does not require, this work would be could be covered under an amendment, could be considered for an amendment and does not require the filing of a new notice of intent. That's my motion.
I second it.
And Susan seconds. And before we take a vote, I just want to make sure.
Well, we lost you, Chuck.
Oh,
We're stuck there.
I just I don't know what happened. Maybe the movie's over and everyone went to their room and started watching their personal devices. I just wanted to make it clear. It seems like this is an opportunity to get permission from these two entities, the Elks Club and the Boys and Girls Club. But I feel like you feel confident in the description and the original permit. So I just wanted to say that food for thought, because I'm going to be thinking of a good condition to keep them off that land, because I think it's worth it to go and talk to them.
So I've been trying to chime in here that Brad did talk to the owners of those properties and has gotten permission for treatment on those properties.
Great. Is that verbal?
They'll even allow access from a different vantage if we need it, but the way that we want to approach this is all within and under the town's auspices, including this permit, so it's only land under water bodies being treated. As Jackie and I observed, that is the case for the two areas that we're suggesting for treatment currently. Elizabeth Island was much more up gradient from the waters, like bank and upland. So that was a different case, but I think both of the areas in question tonight can be done squarely within this permit without needing property access, etc.
Okay, sounds good. We have a motion from Nathaniel Stevens, a second by Susan Chapnick. Mike Gilsgame,
Yes.
David White,
Yes.
David Kaplan,
Yes.
Brian McBride,
Yes.
Nathaniel Stevens,
Yes.
Susan Chapnick,
Yes.
and Chuck Tirone says yes. Okay. Well, find ourselves at the end of the agenda. Is anything?
No, now we have to approve the
Vote
amendment.
Whoa,
to
whoa,
No?
whoa. No, we didn't set them both up that way. Only one of them was set up that way. I'm looking at my
No,
agenda right now.
It's not a
No,
hearing.
there's a public notice. Isn't there a public
Yeah.
notice in here?
It is for the hearing. So we didn't officially need to vote on what was going to happen, whether it was an amendment or not. I'm happy we did so because we had only sort of tacitly agreed previously, but here we are, and we've also advertised the hearing, so now we can vote to make the actual amendment.
Oh, Lordy.
And if you like, I can read you.
And David, you
language.
know about the raise hand function, right? So we don't waste our time. Okay, just making sure.
Chuck, how could you resist imposing an owner's condition?
I thought I looked at both of these. It wasn't in the discussion item, so seems like okay, whatever. We're gonna take it on. So we're gonna open up the hearing for. Do we open it up or is it already open? Somebody, I don't know where.
It's already open. So
okay. Let's go.
I'm gonna suggest that somebody make a motion to amend condition 21 to say that manual direct application of imazamox and or glyphosate is allowed for the treatment of phragmites. Does that sufficiently cover?
I'll also move. I so move, excuse me.
I'll second.
Oh, I'm just going to go
that's
recognize
close.
Kaplan's voice. So I'm going to go with David Kaplan. Was it?
Is there rewind? Rewind
Brian got
function
it.
now on Zoom?
Throwing the flag.
We got a coin.
Mike Gilsgame.
Yes.
Susan Chapnick.
Yes.
David White.
Yes.
Brian McBride.
Yes.
David Kaplan.
Can I say one thing? I know we didn't have a discussion because that motion is not exactly right because you also have to change the method. So instead of just changing imazamox or glyphosate, you have to say imazamox or glyphosate with a non-ionic surfactant and hand foliar application because you didn't say that before.
David said direct manual, I believe. So
is it? Okay.
Add the ionic, and
Great.
I think that gives us a little bit of leeway then.
Great.
So,
direct manual application.
Yeah, with the, I guess we could add the non-ionic surfactant.
I think that's important because that's the one that's less hazardous
the aquatic
to
formulation.
Yeah. Exactly.
I agree to that amendment of my motion.
Thanks, Nathaniel.
We're going to start again. Should we start again or should I just ask for?
I think you should vote again. Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. So Nathaniel Stevens motion, and it was seconded by David Kaplan. Mike Gilsgame.
Yes.
Susan Chapnick.
Yes.
David White.
Yes.
Brian McBride.
Yes.
Nathaniel Stevens.
Yes.
David Kaplan.
Yes.
Chuck Tirone says yes. Is that it? Good. I hesitate to say, I think we're at the end of our meeting. Is there some more surprises? But that's what it looks like to me. We're at the end of our meeting unless someone who attended tonight's meeting would like to say something at this time I call it Citizens Open Forum, but it's just an opportunity to say something that wasn't on the agenda at this moment. Use the raise hand function or turn on your video and wave. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right,
Ooh,
just
gotcha.
tradition. See you later. Just
See you next
So
time.
long.
yep.
So, yeah,
See you at the next
bye.
one. Thanks.
Peace.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Yep. Bye now.